Welcome to Quest for Peace, a podcast that explores how we can journey towards inner tranquility in the midst of a chaotic world. In an era filled with uncertainty, conflicts, and global challenges, our quest for peace becomes more vital than ever. Together, let's discover how we can create more peace within ourselves, and by doing so, how we can contribute to a more peaceful world. Hello, friends, and welcome to Quest for Peace. I am Saju, and I am your host. Today, I'd like you to meet the Joy Activator, a globally renowned well-being facilitator, keynote speaker, and certified Theta healer, empowering audiences worldwide to reclaim their power, shift their energy, and amplify their positive impact. Welcome, Dina Sabnani.
Hi, everyone.
Welcome to my show. I'm so excited to have you here. And before we get into the joy activation part of it, I'd love to hear a little bit more about you. Why and how did you start this? Tell me about your journey that brought you to this place.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me on the show. I'm so excited to be on it. So like you said, my name is Dina Sabnani, and I was born in the Philippines, raised in Hong Kong, lived in LA, New York, San Francisco, and Dubai, and currently live in South Texas the past almost 8 years now. So I've had a really interesting journey in the past 50 years that I've been on this planet. And I came from, Indian parents, grew up in Hong Kong, but the difference between me was that my parents weren't very conservative. We grew up as Hindus, but dad had a guru, and he grew up with the belief of there is a formless creator of all that is, and that no matter what we look like, what we wear, what we eat, we're all one, and understanding this universality. And so I grew up with the concept of a belief in something greater than me and an openness and willingness. My dad used to, he knew the Bible, he knew Jainism, he loved reading Osho. He was very well read in scriptures and religion, but he understood practical spirituality. And my mom was also not your typical Indian housewife. She got married with my dad and they lived in Hong Kong. And she was a little more rebellious than most. And so she was the Indian woman who got a job. She went to get her diploma in hairstyling. She would wear the funkiest outfits to the Diwali ball. So she wasn't your typical Indian woman either. And in my teens, they started a business with semi-precious gemstones, which took them all over the world. And they used to go to places like Tucson for the huge gem fair. And all their friends were all these hippie people, were into crystal healing. And around my house, I had crystals everywhere. There were books, the Silva method. There were books on crystal healing. My parents, talked about psychics. And so I grew up really liberal and in a very spiritually aware household, I would say.
Wonderful. Well, you've gone all over the world. Yes. That's what both of us have in common, don't we?
Exactly.
Yes.
It's the type of Indian we are, right? We lost our
Yes.
homeland and now we're
Exactly.
scattered across the planet, and everyone's doing different things. And it's a beautiful experience. Every time I tell someone,
Yes.
where I was born, where I've lived, and they're like, are you with the service? Because mainly in America, that's what they're used to. You're traveling only if you're part of the military in some way. But
That's
without realizing, no, we come from global nomads. And
true.
I have 27 first cousins just on my mother's side. She's one of 12 children. And so they're scattered around the world. And so traveling was just what we did.
Very normal.
Yeah.
But then what brought you into what you're doing now as a joy activator?
So for me, I didn't live also your typical life. I grew up with challenges, let's say. And At the age of 13, 14, I developed, head to toe psoriasis. Actually, it started small, but by the time I was about 15, I was covered in like just scaly skin and it was really bad. And I had the blessing for it being head to toe for me. So
Wow.
it was a real, as you're a young girl coming into puberty, that the way you look really makes it just affects your self-esteem in every single way. The blessing was that, having the parents that I had the ability of choosing happy without thinking I was doing so. A lot of times during my treatment, I'd go to doctors and nurses, and I remember being at UCLA at the dermatology center, and these nurses were like, "You're so young, and yet you have such a good outlook." We have patients here, and at that time I was maybe 16, 17, and that patient that's in their 30s going, they're just miserable, they're suicidal, they're not nice to people. And I didn't realize that I was doing anything different. But when I look back, it was tough. But having that understanding especially from my father at that point, I'm a daddy's girl. I was much closer to my father. And I had two choices, right? Either I could stay at home, be under the covers, lock myself in the room and just cry my lungs out, or I could
Mhm.
go out and live life. And I remember being in high school and like, having spots on my leg and having to wear the school uniforms, having to do swimming classes because it wasn't contagious. It just was. And I remember a senior in a classroom full of younger kids going, "Hey, pizza late." Yeah. So, and many years later, that guy was on Facebook and he reached out and he goes, "I'm really sorry for being really mean to you." But I had to go through a lot that way. And then I've always sort of seen life on the more positive side. I've always been a more optimistic person. So when I was in high school, I never was part of the cool kids or the nerdy kids. I just got along with everyone. And it would be funny growing up, people would come to me and say, "Hey, Dina, will you send us good energy? We have a job interview. Hey, Dina, can you send good vibes?" And I'm like, "Okay." And like I said, my parents were quite liberal. So there was a healing course happening in Hong Kong. And my mother said, "Why don't you go do it?" And it was a Japanese healing art called Mahikari. And it talked about, getting energy from this source and channeling it through your hand. So it was like putting energy in someone's third eye. So I was learning these concepts at a really young age. And I didn't question it. It didn't seem woo to me. I'm like, okay, let's channel some energy. Because again, as growing up as Indian, even in our religion, there are things that seem strange and rude to other people, but were really normal to us growing up, the things we did. And then I went through, college. I left home at 16 years old. I went to university, didn't know what I was doing, but got a degree, started working. And all throughout, again, it was just, I never followed the rules. People would get really upset, especially like the Indian aunties, because they couldn't fit me in a box. And because I had a skin issue, the traditional way of going to high school, going to secretarial school, and then having a nice arranged marriage didn't relate to me, right? Unfortunately, Indians can be quite judgmental, like she's too dark, she's too short, she's too, like, her nose is too big. So having a skin condition, it just was ruled out. And my parents were like, "Yeah, go do what you need to do." And then another sort of real powerful event in my life was when I lost my dad at the age of, he was 60. He actually passed on his 60th birthday. And he was my best friend. He was my spiritual mentor. He was my guide. I literally held his hand on the hospital bed as he passed, and he was surrounded by his satsang, which is like your congregation, singing hymns and praying. And it was sort of a bittersweet moment. I was 27 years old and just figuring out life, um, and wasn't that close to my mom. I didn't have the greatest relationship with my brother because he lived in the US. I had come back and, gone all over the place. And so it just, at that point, you feel really alone. But even in his passing, because I grew up as a Nirankari, because I understood our belief system, we knew that, once you die, you merge into the creator of all that is. And the theory is if you do, live the life and you're at the space, you achieve moksha, which is the ultimate peace, nirvana, and you don't come back. The whole theory is you don't have to reincarnate. And I remember Pri saying, your dad, he's done. And learning that death is just part of life. Actually, the biggest cause of death is life. If you are born, you are going to die.
After that.
And so having that awareness and not having the fear really helped. I also had lost a family friend. We were both the same age. We were around 16, and he passed from leukemia. And so I had to attended a funeral, and I saw that. And so I had been exposed to it. And with the teachings, on my journey, losing dad, yeah, it was rough, but for whatever reason, it didn't devastate me in a way some people might have been.
So
Go.
what I'm understanding is that life has prepared you for the moment that you are at right now. Thanks to your parents, you learned a lot of modalities of healing, and also thanks to your dad who taught you so much, and you have really gone through a lot of things preparing you for what you are doing now, and still very young, and
I feel young.
yeah, you are young.
Yeah, no, it's been a training ground, right? And people think, oh, Dina, you're always happy. You must have had like a silver spoon in your mouth and no issues in your life, because people are so shocked that I can still choose happiness, right, in my life. And I mean, that was just some things. And then there were failed relationships and going through that kind of trauma and feeling abjectly alone in your life. And so throughout it, yes, you said I had different healing modalities. We'd go to India for summer vacations. I did Reiki there, Reiki 1, 2, 3, and learned about more energy healing modalities. I loved personal development, to reading about things, and it prepared me for what I was doing. And the biggest lesson was one of my relationships that was just on again, off again for about 5 years. And instead of bringing out the best in each other, we were bringing out the worst in each other. And at one point I was like, who are you, Dina? You're not this person who like is laying on the floor crying to high heaven because you've had a fight and he leaves the house, right? And I was laying on the floor wailing. I didn't cry that much when I lost my father, but that relationship really did a number on me, and it led me to then taking theta healing classes. And even my then partner was like, oh, I'll do anything, let's go see a counselor, whatever. And we happened to be in Hong Kong at the time, and there was a visiting theta healer from, I think, Australia or something. So we went in, he had a session, he was in tears, and then I did a session, and I had heard of it before. And then, yeah, when our relationship was it was too much for me, I said no more. And I went and I went back to Hong Kong. I was in San Francisco. I went back to Hong Kong with my tail between my legs, back home again, to my mom, another failed relationship, didn't know what I was doing. And a friend of mine said, come to Dubai, and I'd already left Dubai. Come to Dubai and do this course. I'm going to teach basic. And I said, Dubai's too far. No. And I was Googling it, and there happened to be a course happening in Thailand. And then I had come home, no money, nothing to show for myself. And my mom said, go. So I ended up going to Thailand, to a beautiful island, and I learned basic, advanced, and manifesting from a French teacher of theta healing on the island. And then as I was getting done, him and this other Italian instructor said, Dina, this seems to be work that you should be doing. We're doing, in 3 weeks, we're doing a intuitive anatomy course, which is 3 week, 8 to 5 deep dive into the next chapter, the Theta Healing. And I was like, I don't even know how I'm going to do it, right? Mom paid for this course. But when I spoke to her, she said, go ahead and do it. And it was the craziest thing. I went back to Bangkok, hung out with my family there, went back, and there were 20 of us from all over the world, like doing a deep dive into the anatomy and belief systems and clearing, what we were holding on to, because you have to practice with each other. And people would be spent. At the end of the day, people would just be drained out. But I would be on this little high and I would be skipping around and jumping in the ocean and playing, because it allowed me to let go of things that, that I didn't even know I was holding on to. And that sort of started that journey into really finding a modality that fit me. And then I went on to the US and did teacher training for several courses. But that then allowed me to be in that relationship with my ex-partner. I had done just a class, and I went back to him. We tried to make it work, but then I realized, I don't need this anymore. And it was just this gentle parting. It was like, you've made choices, I've made choices, bless you. And I moved on. But he was the biggest catalyst for me to go into this work. And it was a blessing in disguise.
Well, people come to you for a reason, seasons, or a lifetime.
Yeah.
And I guess he was there for a reason.
People think teachers are supposed to be these positive influences in your life and teach you things, but you can learn from not the greatest experiences too, right? And they are your teachers. In Indians, we call them your gurus. They teach you something, and not necessarily they're what the Western world believes as a guru, right? So these lessons, and then moving across the world and having different experiences, and then ending up here 8 years ago, again, divine synchronicity. There's so many little things that have led me to where I am today.
That's lovely. And of course, what is a joy activator, Dina? What do you do as a joy activator?
So honestly, that was a title that was a download. During COVID time, I went like a lot of people went into the slump. It wasn't the fear of what was going on, but it was like, what am I doing with my life? I didn't have a job. The funds in the bank weren't the greatest, right? I was like living on credit cards. And I just didn't know what I was doing with myself. And I knew I had gifts and talents. When I moved here to the Valley, I thought I would be really successful as a healer because I had visited several times, came to be a speaker for Infinite Love. And then nothing. It was crickets, and I needed to pay rent. I had found an apartment and I needed to pay bills. So I became a server. And I was doing that. Bills were paid. I made some friends, and I was just going through. And the universe was like, this is not your purpose. This is not your place. And so, I was no longer doing that. And then there was nothing going on, COVID time. And so then I believed in investing in myself, and I had my own coach and mentor, and I was doing work with her weekly. I joined other programs, which when you don't feel good about yourself, you ghost things, right? You understand you have to invest, but then you don't show up because you feel like you have nothing of value to add, and it really messes your brain. But as I was working with her, she goes, your purpose on this planet. And I said, yeah. And I go, my purpose on this planet is simply to be a lighthouse of joy. That's it. That was all I knew and I've always known. And she goes, then why do you fight it so much? And I'm like, I go, well, I don't know. How can you get paid to be joyful or be happy? And she goes, there are people. She goes, Dina, the travel business, the vacation business is $1 billion business, multi-billion dollar business. They get paid to take people to have great experiences and have fun. She goes, stop shortchanging yourself. And so I remember being in the shower, and I was working on a program, getting clients to see me as a healer. And then the title, The Joy Activator, just came forth, because before I was body, mind, spirit healer on Instagram. And I was like, yeah, that makes sense. Body, mind, spirit. I'm a healer. But then it wasn't really my truth, my ultimate truth. But the joy activator then came about, and that's what's been there. And then slowly but surely, I started going out. A friend of mine said, Dina, you need to get out of your little cave and you need to come out. And the more I just showed up to serve, without any intention, without like, I need a client because I need to pay my bills. I just let go of all that, surrendered to the creator and said, okay, let me just get out there and serve. Money will come. And I started serving. I started joining boards and going to events. And people were like, hey, Dina, can you help us with this? And I created a network. I created my influence. And I started marketing myself as the joy activator. And throughout my life, many people who I've seen, call them psychics, fortune tellers, people who know, who read, they're like, Dina, you're supposed to be a speaker. I go, I know. Dina, there's a book in you. I know, but it never was the right time. And now I'm an international best-selling author. I'm in the book called Women with Healing Gifts. Go figure, again, divine synchronicity. And I have a chapter in there and it's called Everyone is a Healer, because I truly believed you can learn your healing gift. And now I speak to cities. I speak to educational institute. I speak to corporations. I've done some keynote speaking. And it's not the serious, a PowerPoint and leadership training. But to me, every single person or every single leader need to understand well-being. And it's not just what you eat, right? And it's not going and exercising, although those are amazing things. Well-being is body, mind, and spirit. And understanding that happiness is a choice that we need to make ourselves until it becomes a habit.
Well, I agree with you. Absolutely. Everything is important. What's going on right now in the world? People are going through a lot of depression and anxiety, and they just don't know what the heck is going on in this world. Everything is topsy turvy. How do you tell a person like that you can be happy no matter what? I mean, how would you teach that?
So it's not about being happy no matter what. And I think that's what some of the movements out there was like, oh, just be happy, good vibes only. And it's not only good vibe. We're human. I mean, I remember a client being on the phone with me asking me about my services. And, we were talking, and the last question she had was, Dina, can I ask you something? I said, sure. And she goes, are you joyful all the time? And I'm, oh, I said, I have my moments. I get angry. I get scared. I get frustrated. I get sad. I go, but when you learn to default that switch to joy, you then get to understand all your emotions are truly valid, right? That everything is there to help you understand what you are feeling. And a lot of times we're feeling things based on our thinking, but we don't even know what we're thinking about. So no, it's not happy no matter what. It's choosing that, hey, I'm in this situation. I might not have control of the situation, but I have control of what I'm thinking about. I get to control my choice in if I'm reacting to it or if I'm going to respond to it. And that comes with practice. Happiness is a choice you have to make minute by minute, hour by hour, day by day, week by week, month by month, until it becomes your default. Because humans have a negativity bias. We were born with a negativity bias. So it takes that time for you to create that happiness habit. And it's what you're thinking about and choices you are making.
So yes, Dina, I agree with what you're saying. And it's a question of practice. Just like anything else, we have to practice. And when we get this negative thought in our mind, we have to keep reminding ourselves, okay, it's not that bad, or let's think about it. Let's work on it. Like if you are feeling angry, allow yourself to be angry, right? And then, right? And then maybe say, okay, now that I got my anger out, let me think of something happy. Let me think of something positive, something to be grateful for, and then just try and cultivate that joy to come out of you. Okay, that's basically with all that's going on. And if we want to have peace in our lives, and we're searching for peace, we have to let go, or we have to feel our emotions, and allow the joy to come in and the peace to come in after, but you have to work on letting go of the emotion. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. Exactly. So what happens is we just live on autopilot. We think life is, the way it's supposed to be. And, we come from different backgrounds, different cultures, different belief systems, and we're programmed to react and act in certain ways. And this is right and this is wrong. And as we grow, things don't resonate, but we don't know what it's about. And so we go through these chapters in our lives, like not feeling congruent. And it's about doing the work. And that's why the healing field is so big, and counseling and therapy, whatever it is, you have to find ways. What happens is people are living in the past, and what you focus on expands, right? Wherever energy goes, wherever attention goes, energy flows. And so if you're constantly living in the past, you're not able to come to peace because your mind is just going around. He said this, she said this, blah, blah, blah. This happened to me, government, society, school. And so then we let go of personal responsibility. And that's another thing where peace comes from, is taking self-responsibility. Happiness is to you. It's a responsibility we need to make. No one else can make us happy. But what do? We see Hallmark movies. We see, culture around us saying the other person is responsible. They need to buy you the flowers. They need to do and you're giving away your remote control. And this is what I go out and speak on stages. I go, you are literally giving your remote control away to someone else, and you make them, you give them permission to press your button. And I tell people, who gave the remote control away? And they're like, I did. And then if someone presses your button, you're happy. If someone presses your button, you're not happy. And so literally I tell my audiences to look at someone and say, give me back my remote control. Because that's the first thing, is taking responsibility for your life. It's easy to play victim. It's easy to blame someone else. And then you're constantly rehashing the past, right? So where are you going to find your peace? And then there are other group of people who are living in the future. And they constantly, oh, what's going to happen in the world? Oh my God, financial crisis. Oh my God, pandemic. Oh my God, this. And they're constantly living in fear, anxiety, and worry about the future. So what are you going to attract more of in your today? The same thing. And I go, if you keep doing what you're doing, you're going to keep getting what you get. And what's Einstein's definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. If you're going to do the same thing, you're going to get same results. So what do you need to do? How do you choose the happier? I ran 2 happiness clubs, one in Dubai and one in Hong Kong. I mean, that's always been my personality. I had a blog in the early 2000s, and it was Musings of a Happy Chick. Like, it's been in my DNA. My name, Dina, just the I in the DNA, right? And it's really understanding that you need to have awareness of what you're thinking about, because we are powerful creators. We co-create our reality. And so what we're thinking about then, and thoughts, what are thoughts? They're either pictures or ideas that we put meaning toward. Yes or yes? Right?
Yes.
Pictures are ideas, and we put our meaning based on our background, our culture, our beliefs, and we give it an idea. And so those thoughts then make us feel something. And from those feelings, those emotions, we then do something or don't do something, right? Either we sit on the couch and say, oh, I'm so depressed, I'm doing nothing. Or then, oh my God, this is so exciting, I'm going to go out and do this and that. And then based on what we do is our reality. This I learned from a mentor of mine, Joseph McClendon III. And this is what I go, and on stages, I get people to recite this mantra to understand how powerful we truly are. Because it's, as I think, so I feel. As I feel, so I do. And as I do, so I have. And that is so powerful. I'm going to say it one more time. It's as I think, so I feel. As I feel, so I do. And as I do, so I have. And so your thoughts are powerful. You have Dr. Wayne Dyer, right, talking about the power of your thought. And then some people say, Dina, but sometimes the feelings come. Yeah, because you're not aware of what you're thinking about. But when you pause, why am I feeling so sad? right? What's going on because I'm thinking about this? Oh, okay, how do you do it? And you change the thought little by little. People, they ask me because, I'm now like an authority on happiness and joy. People ask me, so then how do you get happier? And there's been science for decades. I'm not telling anyone anything new, but people want rocket science. They want the secret sauce. They want something new and exciting. And it's like the top 10 ways of being happier: gratitude, right? Right. Day, what makes you happy? Who are you happy for? Send messages to people just to say thank you. Spending time in nature, going out, putting your feet in grass and grounding your body. There's science to that. Nothing I share on stages, in podcasts, anywhere that I talk is not based on not having science behind it. Even theta healing, which is the modality I practice, is quantum physics. We are witnesses. We're not healers, but we're witnesses of the changes that are occurring on the quantum level. And if we simply allow that, things will change dramatically. Just a 21-day practice, being thankful, putting a smile on your face for 17 seconds, no matter how you're feeling. Because again, it's science. You put a smile on your face for 17 seconds, your brain is going to release actual chemicals to make your body and your sympathetic and parasympathetic, your nervous system feel better. So you're smiling, your brain's releasing a dose of chemical, dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, endorphins. Suddenly your nervous system regulates more and you feel better. Move your body. Why is exercise so important? People then can get carried away with it, but just moving your body, dancing in your living room, you're actually releasing stuff that's being held on in a somatic movement. So you're creating a balance in your vagus nervous system. Singing, chanting, doing simplest of things, doing something for someone else without any expectation. And growing up, we had satsang, seva, and simran, right? We grew up with that, which was keep good company of people who are talking uplifting things, do things for other people, and then, sing and enjoy and talk about the creator and good things in your life. And it's these simple things that are ancestral times would tell you. There's nothing new, but today's day and age, there are new challenges. There's the access to the internet. There's more access to the news. So we're so much more aware of what's going on, and that the thorn in all the technology that too much now, and then we take it in and go.
That's true. You're reminding me of a lot of lessons that I learned from my guru. And of course, Dada Vaswani, I think he's a very popular guru in India who passed very recently, was very, very particular about thinking thoughts. And he was always saying that if you keep, negative thoughts all the time, your life will turn negative. You will do negative things. And so that's where for the first time I had heard about that. And I said, well, I didn't understand that, because I said, I'm not hurting anyone by thinking, because he said it's almost like a sin if you have negative thoughts, because you will turn around and be negative. So that I could not understand then. I do now.
It's science. And that's another thing I talk about is the ripple effect, right? I go, it doesn't matter. You might not say anything, but our energy speaks volumes. It speaks when you enter a room. It speaks before you even open your mouth. People can tell and feel how you're feeling. Do you want to be the person who walks into the room and everyone's like, yay? Or do you want to be the person who walks out of the room and people are like, oh, thank God, yay. Susie left the room, because our energy speaks volume and we think we don't make a difference. But now it's science. There's the Heart Math Institute that says the electromagnetic frequency from our heart is so great. And if we cultivate skills to be in a state of coherence, and you can train to be in coherence, one person can affect 70,000 people around them. And they did studies where they took a person who's trained in coherence, vibrating at a higher frequency, thoughts of love, compassion, joy, right? Higher emotional feelings. And there's an energy feeling scale that's out there. They put them in Washington, D.C. A month later, the crime rate dropped dramatically. So people say, oh, I don't matter. it doesn't make a difference. I go, no, your energy speaks volumes. And, I have them chanting, energy is life, because we truly forget. And people are like, Dina, that's woo-woo stuff. No, science.
Yep.
And even a child or an animal picks up on other people's energy. And so to cultivate energy, you have to be aware of what you're eating, right? We live in a culture where highly processed foods, then, people, and they found studies to link them with depression, anxiety, because it's sugar filled and chemical filled. And it's not what's going around you. Sometimes it's what you're eating. Are you watching the news 24/7? Who's around you? What are you reading? What are you scrolling on in social media? Are there things that are making you feel good and expanding your energy? Or every time do you feel contracted? That's all you need to know. Does this make me feel good? Do more of it. Because when you're feeling good, you're impacting the people around you. And I tell people, I go, that's why I keep so positive, and that's why I don't watch the news. People are like, you don't know what's going on? I go, if I need to know, I'll know. I go, we've got too much access to too much information. I go, if I need to know something, I'll know it. Till then, I'll live in my little bubble. I'm aware, I'm not dumb, but I know what I can focus on. And I know that my energy makes an impact in my world. And so when I keep that energy high and I surround myself with great people, when I go to meditation on Wednesdays and soak in that energy, when I go and speak to others, high school girls, or even corporate city employees, CEOs, it's the same message. It's just the reminder that you make a difference. So the quest for peace is a state of being, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you're focused on the past, you're in chaos. If you're focused in the future, you're still in chaos. But when you can find that coherence, by just a choice, today I'm going to choose to have a wonderful day. Set the intention of your day. You then start changing your vibration. If there's trauma or drama or negative instances in your life, go seek the help. Right now, mental health is a priority. Put the mask on yourself first. Do the work so you can make better choices. It takes a little bit of effort. It takes energy, but then you can then flip that switch to joy. So if I'm sad, if I'm angry, if I have road rage, I feel it, I allow it. I go, okay, what am I trying to learn? Or what is this lesson teaching me? Sometimes I don't even think about it, but then it just washes through me. And the next day I'm back to the joy activator, right? And I know my energy makes a difference. So then if I'm feeling not so great, or in sending out not the greatest vibrations, and I don't go out and share that outside, because I know how each individual's energy impacts other people in our world.
Absolutely, Dina. I've known you for how long? 10 years almost? Or yeah? And I've never seen you depressed or upset. You're always smiling, always up. The energy is always up. And that's amazing because, like you said, what you bring in, it's contagious, and people around you will start feeling it. It's the same thing as peace. And I know there are a lot of people who are in the victim mentality from what has happened in the past and unable to let go, angry. But it's so important for us to push forward and find out, okay, this happened to me. Now what? Now what am I going to do? Am I going to stay here for the rest of my life talking about what has happened in the past, which the past is dead. It's gone. There's nothing you can do with it. You can't change it. You can't do anything. The only thing you can do is for yourself. What can you do for yourself? How can you change this mindset? And of course, like you said, you find people who can help you. You go to your pastor in the church, you go to counselors, you need someone to talk to, get it out and say, okay, from now on, I'm going to be positive. I'm going to be happy, and I'm not going to worry about it. And then about the future, we worry so much. We don't even know what we worry about is ever going to happen. So why waste our time there? Let's be here and try and cultivate that peace. Try and work with ourselves, love ourselves. Loving ourselves is so important. Don't you think, Dina? What do you have to say about self-love?
That's it. The saying, right? You have to learn to fly. How do you fly? It's first love yourself. And it might be a process. Again, I could have been miserable. I had head to toe psoriasis. I could have been the most unhappiest person. I've had so many, I never thought I go, who's going to love me, right? I've got such bad skin. I'm never going to have a relationship. Who's going to be wanting to be with me? And you have to understand it's your energy. And, when I was in relationships, I would wonder, like, why is this person with me? But it was about who I was, right? My energy and my beingness, and people saw beyond the surface level and understood what a great person I was. And then it started cultivating, like, okay, I can be more confident. Yeah, I'm a sexy woman. Yes, I've got something to offer. Because when I first dated my first boyfriend, I thought that was it. I found one guy. This is it. No one else is going to love me. I got lucky. But then as I evolved and learned more, you realize that everyone's got issues. Every single person is challenged with someone. There is no one, even the people that we look up to, that is perfect, that's not struggling. And you'd be surprised. I've had prominent clients come see me, doctors, judges, lawyers, who do, and everyone, and you look on the outside and you think they have, what are they going to be worried about? And everyone, something that was said to them when they were 5 years old, their mother not giving them enough attention. We all have, again, challenges, and we know this. This is what I don't get, is that as human beings, we know life is going to be like this, right? Never like this. I've asked audiences and audiences. I've spoken to, I would say, thousands upon thousands of people. I spoke to 500,000 people in India in front of our congregation, but no one has once told me that their life has just been an uphill, happy, 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 amazing, 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 right? We know we're going to lose people. We know we're going to have dis-ease or health struggles. We know people are going to lose jobs, financial struggles. We know all this. And yet when something happens, we act like it's the most devastating thing on the planet. And then you have to go back to like Kung Fu Panda, the turtle, the wise turtle that says, to be expected. And so if you understand that things are to be expected and don't get so dramatic about the lows, then you can be easier sailing instead of getting like, oh my God, this is devastating. Oh my God, this is amazing. And then you fall again and you're like, oh, my life is ruined, right? But if you just ride the wave and surrender to the flow, it makes life so much easier. Then you're like, okay, what's my responsibility? What can I do? I remember I didn't have the greatest relationship with my mother, and we would fight like cats and dogs. And then slowly, as I evolved, as I did my work, as I did more personal development and healing, I understood she has her stories. She has her pain. She has her challenges. I lost my father. She lost her husband. She lost her rock. I have sisters and cousins to speak about it with. Her generation, they didn't talk to each other. They just talked about the basic things, right? They didn't go deep and share their heart. So her anger wasn't personal to me, but it was just a culmination of just everything that needs to explode out. And the more I learned that it's not personal, and I tell you something, every client I speak to, I tell them to read one book. And that's The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz, because it literally shifted, and it's a small book, and it shifted everything for me. When you learn not to take things personal and understand it's other people's stories, and everyone has stories, every single one of us. And it takes practice, especially if someone's yelling at you with your name. They're like, Dina, but it's personal. I go, you have to just go, not my circus, not my monkeys. It's not about me. It's not about me. You can shed the tears and it can feel bad. But if you then don't take it on, you get to drop it right there. What we do is someone's emotionally puking all over you, and we stand there with a bucket and say, oh, thank you. Give it to me, right? And then we take it home, and then we put it under our pillow, and we sleep at night, and we lose sleep because something's smelling. Something's smelling. Oh my God, and you're constantly rehashing that. The other person's puked it all out, sleeping really well, and then we carry it everywhere we go. You have to let that doo-doo go, right? Someone pukes, you go, oh, feel better? Great. I'm not taking that. That's not for me. You can leave it right there. And when you do, you can go home and it doesn't sit there and play around in your head, right? Because it, oh, she disrespected me and he said this about me and she said this, and it's all, you save so much drama when you go, okay, great. I'm glad you feel that way. That must be your story. I'm making a choice to respond, not react, and I am choosing to keep my peace. I'm choosing
Beautiful.
to keep my peace.
That's awesome. And I know we can talk about this so much, and I'll just say that one thing that I have realized is that we have come to this earth to ascend. And so we will be given challenges that we have to face, and we have to get through it and then ascend a little bit. So we start understanding ourselves more. We become a little bit of a different person. And then you might be having a little bit of a sailing, and then suddenly another, challenge will come our way. And this is life. And we're going to continuously get those challenges. And we should just, at that time, remember, okay, what is this challenge trying to teach me? What am I supposed to do with this? Instead of saying, oh my God, what's going on? Why is everyone against me? Why, and that's not it. These are just challenges that we have to just roll with them and figure out, how we're going to, you know, basically roll with it. How are we going to do it with peace, with happiness, with calmness, and taking one step at a time and going through it? So, I mean, so Dina, my question to you then is, what does a peaceful world look like to you?
Oh, what does a peaceful world look like to me? So my dad told me when I was growing up, I was 10 or 11, he said, Dina, this world was created just for you. You are the writer, you are the producer, you are the director, the cinematographer, and the main superstar of the movie called life, right? You get to decide what you want to experience in it. If it's happy, comedy, if it's a romantic comedy, if it's tragedy, you decide. And that has stuck to me all my life. And so for me, a peaceful life is when I'm at peace. If I'm at peace and I make choices that aid to my happiness, aid to my joy, then it's a peaceful world around me because it's my world. I don't then get bothered by, and it's not being callous, it's not being cold-hearted. There's struggles all over the planet, but then the biggest gift I think my father gave me, who, was my guru and then my guru. And it's really funny that we're talking today because this is 7 years of his passing, of Nirankari Baba, serendipity. But it was the connection with the creator of all that is. And I think if you are connected with something that is greater than you, and you learn to trust, and you learn to surrender, and you learn to not be attached to all the outcomes, life can be truly magical. I don't know why there's war going on. I don't know why there's famine. I don't know why there are bad things that are happening to people. There has to be some greater reason. And I don't think it's a creator's perspective, fault
Cool.
per se. Human beings make choices. And sometimes we don't make the greatest choices, but I can only be responsible for what I can be responsible for. And doing that makes my world a so much better place. And so I think it's not about everybody having to change, with the heart science that we heard. If one person starts taking responsibility for their energy, they can impact 70,000 plus people. So if individuals on this planet, just few people decide, oh, it's time to turn my light on, right? We're making impact. Everyone's not going to ascend. Everyone's not going to evolve. There are people who are going to stay in that same drama that, and that's their journey. I don't even know anymore what is and what are we here for. But for me, it's to just experience this blessing that is called life. And I think that's what makes me different from a lot of people is that, yes, people are grateful, but I count my blessings every day. And I'm so thankful for the gift of life. And when we understand the gift is the present and we live in the present, life then becomes peaceful. So for me, a peaceful world is of my creation. And it just makes me feel more energized, more alive, and more joyful. And that is my purpose on this planet, is to just be joy.
That's amazing. That was beautifully said. And like I said, if you, with all the things that are happening out there, the best thing that we can do for our world is to be in that place of peace, to cultivate that peace and love into our hearts, which will automatically help everyone else. So you are responsible for you. Take care of you, bring yourself in alignment. The rest will just work out by itself.
100.
Well, thank you so much for being here today, Dina. It was so beautiful to hear so much about your past and your dad. He sounds amazing. I would have loved to have met him, but maybe in another lifetime. But thank you again so much for being here, and we will see you soon.
Yes, thank you for having me. And I hope the quest for peace continues, because people need this. People need to hear different perspectives and stories on how we can cultivate that peace that's within. So
Yes.
thank you for doing what you do.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Quest for Peace, a podcast about navigating outer chaos with inner harmony. Whether you're seeking solace in the midst of life's challenges or simply curious about the profound connection between inner and outer peace, the Quest for Peace podcast is your guide on this transformative expedition.